My last little introductory video is explaining my approach to Naked Bible podcast teaching. In other words, I just want to give you a heads up on what I'm doing and not doing. Essentially, what's the whole point of this? You can see here, if this is what you want or if this is what you're expecting, you might as well leave now or not listen. I am not going to do scripted sermons. The basic 3 points in a poem. In fact, 3 alliterated points in a poem. I'm not going to do that. This is not going to be sermons. It's not going to be sermonic material. That's the second point. I'm not going to sermonize what I do. What I want to do is just work through the text. I want to work through a passage, and my goal in doing that is not to be quote-unquote practical. I'm not going to be giving you advice. I'm not going to, again, be doing what you're used to on a Sunday morning. That's what Sunday mornings are for. I'm looking for people who are not content intolerant. I want you to learn something. And so I'm not going to be doing what others would call practical teaching. In my experience, as soon as someone asks me, well, what's practical about this or that point of exegesis, or something about the divine counsel, or something about what I do, what's practical about it? To me, I hear that word practical and I think you're using that word to avoid content and avoid thinking. And again, if you're content intolerant and you don't want to think about Scripture, you really should go somewhere else. Thirdly, again, it's not going to be therapeutic platitudes. This is the stuff that probably you hear most of the time on a Sunday morning, unfortunately. I'm not going to be giving you one-liners that are supposed to make you obedient, that your kids are going to magically obey. Your marriage is going to be everything you want it to be if you just go through these steps and again memorize this platitude, this little saying, this little maxim. I'm not doing any of that. Okay, so that is not the point. To me, it's practical if you know Scripture. If you start to think biblical theology, to me there's nothing more practical than that, because it molds your worldview. And that's really what I'm after. I'm not going to be doing any of these things. What I will be doing is, on a weekly basis, walking you through the text, a given passage. Might be a chapter, might be less than a chapter. I don't know. I won't know until I get there. But I want to walk you through the text, explain what's going on, how we know, and why it's going on. Again, with the goal toward building your knowledge, your comprehension of biblical theology. I want you to see how passages contribute to biblical theology. They're all there for a reason. They all do something. They all accomplish something. And what they accomplish, again, is more than telling you that you need to tithe, that your marriage needs to be a good one, you need to love each other. I'm not going to endlessly repeat the gospel. Again, Sunday school should not be forever. I am just not doing that stuff. I want you to learn something. I'm going to be operating under the assumption that you know the basics. That's why I'm creating these videos. Divine Counsel Introduction, Divine Counsel Worldview. I think those videos plus the one that explains how I approach the Bible, I think that'll be adequate. Those 3 videos will be adequate to sort of prepping you for what I plan to be doing on the podcast on a weekly basis. And frankly, I will consider the effort a success if you learn something. That's really what it's about, to build your knowledge, your comprehension, your love for, and your appreciation of biblical theology. So that's what I'm shooting for. Again, it's not going to be typical, it's going to be atypical, but if you're watching these, you probably already knew that. So that's the end of the introduction.